Can I just say, I think John's second name would be better if it was Underworld. Just
Underworld. Underworld.
Yeah, no, but Underworld would have been better, bearing in mind what you did. I should have maybe brought that. I just saw that then, and that's what I kind of read.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I just thought.
Underworldly, like spooky or frightening,
Yeah.
or something of the night, kind of. That kind of.
John, if you're offended already, please stay.
No,
at least
I'm
another
enjoying
5
it.
minutes.
I mean, no. Tell it like it is, please. Bring it on.
It's good to have somebody else with a sensible accent on our programme.
Yeah, where are you from?
I'm from Derbyshire. You're obviously further south than I am.
Yes.
I would imagine.
Chester.
Well, that's actually north. That's northwest of it. Chester, I know it well. Actually, I don't know why we're taping now. We shouldn't be. We'll crop this out. But actually, one of my friends I used to work with in the sales industry was from Chester.
Oh.
And I've been there a number of times.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. Actually,
Yeah, shut the fuck up. I'm talking to John. Hey, Olivier, I'm talking to John. Okay, me and John, we're like that. We're mates,
This
and we
is an
can
English
say
thing
things like
that
this.
I mean.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Can I leave maybe and leave you talking about Chester?
Might be best.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. John, it's good to have you actually on this podcast. See, I'm just doing the introduction very smoothly, and nobody just realized that, because two of our guests mentioned the Deaf Cafe, and I was intrigued.
Yeah.
By what you do, and this is why you are on this podcast, because. Believe it or not, we talk a lot about deaf, especially Tim. Tim loves deaf because of his profession. He's a life coach, so obviously he talks about deaf. No, not really. But before I introduced you a little bit more, actually, I'll let you to talk. Tim asked me to do something. He asked me to say, why don't we do like the professional podcasts are doing? Every professional podcast, what they do is to say, please subscribe to our podcast, subscribe to YouTube, leave your comments if you're interested about what we do. We will be very glad to hear about you, because believe it or not, John, we have subscribers. When we started this podcast, it was just like a joke, between us. And we wouldn't even believe that people will listen to us. And believe it or not, it started to happen. We have subscribers, actually. Not a lot, but it's starting.
Yeah.
And it's not our mothers, so that's really something.
Well, it's not, it could be mine, actually. I'll ask John that later, because my mum's dead, so maybe it is her. Maybe she's who knows? I mean, I don't want to rule anything out, don't want to rule anything in. Let's go with the flow. Sorry, you carry on with your intro, mate. I rudely interrupted you.
Yeah, no, because this is where we try to build the audience. So I'm addressing the audience, the both of you, including the deaf mothers of Tim's deaf mother. Please leave some comments. Tell us, even if it's white noise or anything. What is it? This static noise that ghosts do? I don't know.
White noise. You were right the first time. Amazingly enough, for the first time.
See that?
In about 9 podcasts.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, so please, we would love to hear from you. I think I did it very badly, Tim. What do you think? We shouldn't.
Yeah, I think it fucked it up completely.
Yeah, completely. So, John, let's go back to you. I think is it So the first person who told us about you is Oliver Burkeman, who is this journalist from The Guardian, and he...
Sorry, that's Oliver Burkeman for anybody that's listening. Not Buckerman. There's nobody called Oliver Buckerman that we know. It's Oliver Burkeman from The Guardian in England.
Thank you, Tim.
So sorry about that, Olivia. Yeah,
no, it's okay.
I'll do any interpretation that's necessary.
Yeah,
John,
please don't hesitate
to
to jump in. Whenever you feel it is. But my sexy accent makes all the audience. By the way, is clever enough.
That's true, actually.
Yeah,
they haven't got a fucking clue what he's saying. They just think it sounds hot. Yeah.
So, so whatever his name is, this journalist of The Guardian, I won't repeat it now because I'm ashamed. He talked to you. He mentioned you, and he said, "Yeah, this deaf cafe is happening more and more. It's growing in numbers." And then we had this second interview or discussion with Dr. Norma Bowie for her book, The Deaf Class. And she mentioned you again. She said, this is this deaf cafe, and we think this thing is growing again. It's about talking about deaf very freely. So here we go. Now, we have this, we're talking again about deaf, and I'm still very interested about this subject. It's one of my favorite topic with multitude hours. So tell us about this Deaf Cafe initiatives. What makes you decide about that? And I can hear you squeeze your eyes. Can you try to interpret my words? This is what you're trying to do?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to do.
He's crying with boredom with the length of your intro, actually.
No, it's great. I mean, I have to say first, thanks very much for inviting me on your podcast. I mean,
welcome.
Everyone should subscribe to Raw Voices. I mean, the reason...
Yes!
John,
seriously, everyone
you're the
should
man,
subscribe. Because I looked at what you've done, when you invited me, it's very kind. And, you've got some serious people talking about some serious stuff. And, that's why I wanted to participate. And, now meeting you, even more so want to participate. So say everyone subscribe to Raw Voices podcast. It's really excellent. And, so Death Cafe is something which facilitates people to talk about death and dying. And the reason that it's happened is because there aren't many places where you can really do that. Even in families, people say that it's hard to talk about this kind of subject. So, it just doesn't necessarily need to be like that. But where can people actually go to do that? And there weren't too many places. So, I just thought it makes sense for people to have somewhere they can go to talk about this subject if they want to. And why not make it lovely? Why not, pamper people, make them really comfortable, just make them relax, feed them nicely, just sort of soothe them and just honor their humanity and give them a space to share their stories and their thoughts, because the sort of most important thing about Death Cafe is we don't have any answers. Like, I'm just as confused about death as anybody else is. And, so none of us has got any solutions. Really, it's not about that. It's about honoring people and their truth and giving them space to share that and listening. And it just makes for a wonderful conversation.
Cool.
Can I just say something really important? I haven't got a facetious comment to add to that. That's how good an intro that was.
Yeah.
No, normally I've got some really childish comment to come back at, but I think you explained it really well, and I love the. I love the way you said we haven't got the solutions.
No,
because too many people are trying to say we've got the answers to it.
Yeah,
whether that's a certain religion in terms of death, we need to do this to get to heaven. You need to do this. Yeah. But you're being honest about it, and you're saying, because at the end of the day, it's all beliefs.
Yeah,
nobody knows. Well, people say, "Well, I know this happens." No, you don't. It's a belief. It doesn't. A belief isn't any closer to knowing just because you believe it more fervently.
Yeah.
It's still a belief. So I love that open attitude that, we don't know.
Yeah.
But guess what? It happens to all of us.
Yeah.
Anybody listening, if that's a spoiler, just Google it. You're going to die at some point. But seriously, it happens to all of us. And so I like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
But actually, did you have people coming to this Death Cafe with strong beliefs and okay, I know the truth and this is what happens? Do we have this kind of person coming to your Death Cafe, or is it something that you're trying to? What is it? A good question? Is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah,
it's a good question. Yeah. You get a few people, but it tends to bring along a lot of sort of really sensible people and open to listening. And we have a rule that proselytizing is just, inappropriate. So it's a waste of time. Like, we don't know, or I don't know. And some people say they do know, but they're not many, and they disagree with each other, so it doesn't really leave it any sort of further forward.
That's a cool part,
Yeah. So, people don't get stuck on that. They kind of leave that stuff at the door. And also, if they're professionals, it gives them a certain angle. Professionals in the sense that they work in the deaf and dying field, then it gives them a certain angle. But again, they sort of park it, and what happens is people just tell it like it is for themselves, and that's the thing about death, is that there's no bullshit. Any rubbish is instantly annihilated, and so that's what makes it interesting. because people come and they say what they think and they sort of share their truth. And because there isn't like many places where people can talk about death, what they actually say is it's like polished. It's like a pearl that has been inside them for a long time, and they share it, and it's very beautiful. Often it's kind of, I feel sort of honored to sort of hear what people say, because it is, it's beautiful. And so that's why we do it, and that's why it's spread, because there's a sort of hunger for that truth, I think.
Can I be a dick well, actually, I'm always a dick, but for just 10 seconds, because you're rubbing your microphone with your very sexy cheek, you have that beard, so it's scratching the recording. So, sorry, just if you can.
But it's recording through the open mic, not through this.
Open mic. So you were being a dick, you see.
So, but I'm always a dick. This is why I've just put it I prevent. I'm a dick. But no, because what you're saying is fucking awesome. I love that.
Oh God.
But no bullshit.
I want to make a comment, because you said something really, really interesting there. Being a trained life coach. I noticed that Olivier's a trained life coach, but he was trained by a shit company. He hasn't got any experience. He wouldn't have noticed it. But I like the way, because I've got experience in actively listening. And you said, the way you said they share their truth, which is kind of interesting to me, because we all have our version of the truth. So if you don't want to expand on that a little bit, because I think that's really cool.
I mean, it's just like at some point, it's going to be the end. And, it's the end of one's life. There's going to be a certain point where you look back, potentially, assuming you're not in some awful kind of road smash But anyway, there's going to be a point where you look back and think, well, this is the end of my life. And that's your life. And, the worst thing for me would be looking back with loads of regret. Like, a bit of regret is kind of inevitable, certainly in my case. But, that's what I'm managing by looking at death. I want to be able to look back at my life and say, yeah, I did it. That was my life, and I lived it my way. And You're not going to burst into song now, are you, John? You're not going to burst into my way. You don't have to worry about that. But I mean, that's what death gives you, I think. Also, I mean, a lot of people, they don't like to talk about death, and that's obvious from our society, but there's not a sense that that's wrong. In my opinion, Death Cafe is not saying everyone should talk about death, and if you don't talk about death, you're no. I mean, a lot of people, it works for them to kind of put that to the side for the moment. But there's a big group of people like me who aren't like that, and who, if there's something relevant and significant, wants to take a good look at it, even if it's horrible. And so that's what it is for me. It's death. Relating to death gives me that I don't know. It just makes me think about what's important to me. And I think that's what people come to death cafes for, to sort of stand there and ask themselves that question. And I really respect that in people, because it's not easy. It's not easy for me. I don't think it's easy for most people to really ask that. So I don't know. It's just, it's great,
John, you said that not many people, you won't allow people to come in and you use a word that sounded like prothesis, but I think it means, just bang it on about their story. I didn't know that word. But anyway, so prosthetics, that was it. No, but do you actually get people, sorry, I'm being silly. Do you actually get people coming in and asking? So you don't get people, you say you won't allow people to come in. Do you get people coming in and saying to you, well, what do you think? Or
about me?
Whatever. And if so, well, I think you or other people in there, do you get people looking for answers rather than wanting to share that? Rather than looking to enforce their opinions upon other people?
No, I mean, the questions tend to be practical, like, can you bury someone in the backyard? Or do I have to use an undertaker?
Can you?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, if it's a goldfish, you can, No. Really? Can you? Don't you have to get a license, though?
No, you don't. You have to disclose it when you're selling the house. But That's my understanding.
Shit.
And if you really, I would No, go on.
No, I was going to say, what about Rose West, and they buried about 25 people in their backyard, and they got locked up for about 4 lifetimes. I suppose they did kill them in the first place.
The killing was significant in that
George
case.
and Rose West, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no. You can't kill people.
I think that would bring the resale value down a bit, wouldn't it? Everything's okay, and we've got all the Auntie's buried under the patio.
Yeah.
Sorry, John, we interrupt you. So what else? We can ask.
Sorry.
No, I mean, people talk practically, and it's always different because the thing about Death Cafes, as I say, is that we're really militant about not imposing any views on it. So we don't allow films to be shown, we don't allow guest speakers, we don't have topics like you can't have a Death Cafe about funerals and whatnot. So, we're militant about not putting stuff onto people. What we do is open up a space for just people to talk, and that's what's great about it. And it's always different, and people really go for that. But I mean, there's lots of other people out there who will tell you everything about death and who are a lot more prescriptive, and people seek them out as they need them. Sorry, I'm not sure what I'm talking about.
It's okay.
No, you made a good point, actually. I like the being militant about not being militant, almost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's like and I like that. I like the fact that you give people a free space to talk about this.
Because, I mean, sorry, no, I remember.
No, carry on, John. Please carry on.
Sorry. Because there's a lot of sort of disempowerment around death and dying. So, in our side kind of pushed death to the sidelines to a larger extent. It's kind of invisible. And then we've kind of made it the domain of professionals. So, when you're actually dying, often it's the doctors who will have the power in any situation. And after someone's died, then it's the funeral directors who know what to do. And that experience can be sort of, you're on the side that doesn't know so much and is sort of paying and is... And, I'm not sure. Well, anyway, that's what people want, obviously. But I wanted to do something that countered that, or at least didn't unconsciously replicate that disempowering dynamic. Do you know what I mean? So that's why we just try not to put anything on it. Just like let people... Yeah.
I like that a lot, actually. I think it's... what you say is well, let me share a story, because my mind is I'm juggling with different things right now. But, the first time that I had this idea of death and me dying, I was 3 years old. Okay, 3 years old. And the idea just said, oh shit, I will die. And that really freaked me out. I really something I remember exactly the pain that I had when I just discovered my mortality, but I couldn't share it. Basically, I couldn't discuss about it. This is something like when I try to discuss with my parents, it's something that just brushed this away. They said, this is, don't think about it. You're still young. You're still a kid. You have your whole lifetime. Just in front of you, but this idea of death just was ingrained in me. It was there, always present, and it just bothered me so much. And actually, it still bothers me today. And I just wanted to share, I just wanted to discuss, what is it, what do you feel yourself, And to me, I always thought that everyone had this idea. Everyone was thinking about that. And I'm still, but everyone refused to talk about it. So when I see initiatives like yours, I can only applaud that. And I want to go there because I want to find out, does everyone, have this idea of death? Do you think, because you said, some people don't want to talk about it, but do you think that people have that? They are conscious about this mortality and they share this, or is it what do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think everyone's sort of conscious about it, and I think that it plays a big part in explaining how we behave as human beings. And what's really interesting to me is the terror management theory. I don't know if you've heard of this. Yeah. So for anyone who
you can explain it because you had team like relate like this.
Yeah, but I'm sure I'm not the only person that doesn't know what that is.
Yeah. So it comes from the work of Ernest Becker, who is an American academic, and he wrote a really important book that won the Pulitzer Prize called The Denial of Death in 1976. And then since then, there have been some academics, mainly in the US, who've come across his work and been really influenced by it. And what Ernest Becker said was that fear of death is one of the key things that explains why we behave like we do, and that we can't cope with our knowledge that we're going to die. And the way that we handle that is by seeking ways to sort of transcend death. And the form that this actually takes is everything that we call culture, and specifically the things that we ascribe value to. So for Becker, money, power, youth, beauty, fame, all the things that we think are, the pinnacle, success and sporting prowess or whatever, they're all ways of coping with death. The fact that we think those are so important and seek them so sort of compulsively. But so he said that, and then he died in 76. But what's happened since then is a load of people have tested those things empirically. So they've put people in a laboratory, and for example, talking about money, and this has happened across all those domains that I mentioned, but for example, with money, they'll show people images of sort of low value goods and high value goods, like a Rolex or a posh car or something, and they'll ask people how much they want them. But with half of the people, they'll flash the word death on the screen 28 times a second, so fast that you can't see it, but it's absorbed subconsciously. And so those people who've had that death prompt want the high value goods so much more, like that desire. The death prompt provokes that desire. And similarly, if you ask them, how much money they're going to have at some point in the future, they say they're going to have, the people who've had the death prompt say they're going to have more money and they're going to spend more of it on themselves. And so there's now this amazing body of science and evidence that shows us how death kind of drives us crazy. And I wasn't aware of that when I started Death Cafe, but anyway, Death Cafe is an intervention based around that kind of understanding. So by trying to look at death and dying and open up spaces to talk about death and dying, it's intended to have a big social impact across a number of it's intended to really sort of change society. It's really deep and it's really powerful. So at least for me, it is.
So when you say you want to change the societies by opening the dialogue about this, you mean that is it like a counterpoint of this materialistic, journey that we want to seek this money and cars and fame and fortune and all this? By only talking about death, we are basically we'll be more accepting, and we won't go this materialistic route. Is it what you say, or is it?
Well, Becker says that we need human beings to cope with our inevitable death, seek hero stories, ways to sort of be heroic. And so I'm not proposing that anything could kind of eliminate the need for us to do that, but the ones that we seek at the moment are destroying us. If you look at economic instability, what the desire for growth, material growth, the way that that's driving this planet, If you look at, chronic inequality in the world, which is extremely visible to anyone who wants to see that, and economic instability and environmental degradation, and the degree to which people are able to come up with a solution to those things, or even proposing things which might take those things into account, is really, we've just had an election in the UK, and so no one was talking about those bigger issues, I don't think. So by talking about death, my hope is that my personal hope, and this is not necessarily part of Death Cafe, but my personal hope is that it'll open up spaces where people can ask big questions that help us change the way we live, and move towards overcoming some of the problems that we now have. So that's my personal hope for this work. But I mean, everyone comes to Death Cafe with different reasons, so that's probably just me, but that's what I'm about.
Okay, I've made a page of notes.
Oh shit!
I know the notes.
No, please. Please.
Well, I'm going
I
to come
told
back
you I
in a
wasn't
minute.
any good at podcasts. Do you know what I mean? I told you.
Actually, you're super good.
I think you're pretty nailing it at the moment, John. So I shouldn't worry too much about that. I want to come back in a minute to what you said about, that's what people want, and you said obviously in terms of the Undertaker. I think. I'll start with that. So I think the first question is going to be: do you think that's what people want, or just that they're conditioned to expect to want?
How do you mean?
Well, if you grow up and you're used to the fact that when somebody dies, what happens is the doctor gives them the bad news, presuming they've got an illness, and then it goes to the morgue, and then the Undertaker takes over. So you said that's what people want, but do they really want that, or do they just think that's the normal process, therefore I must accept that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think because people, hide death away, they tolerate things that they wouldn't tolerate in any other area. Do you know what I mean?
Right, okay. I do.
Yeah. So, I mean...
My sorry to cut you off, but my wife worked in palliative care for quite a long time. She's still in oncology. And, there it's kind of like... the come to Jesus speech, that who doesn't want to do it, or who's the person that's prepared to do it, and often it's the doctor that least cares the least, because they're the people that kind of can disassociate from it, and it can just give that bad news and so on, and move forward. And my wife's a very empathetic person, and she's come home. She's been a nurse now in oncology for 25 years, and I wouldn't say regularly, but once a month she'll come home in tears because one of her patients died. Whereas she's worked with doctors where the whole ward could get wiped out and they wouldn't be in tears. It's just because they have this ability. Sorry, go on.
No, I think I feel really sorry for doctors. I think they're the recipient of a lot of our death anxiety, and they can't win. Do you know what I mean? If they tell people how it is, if they're allowed to sort of shed their professional skin and be a human being and talk one-to-one, then that's not what families want to hear. Do you know what I mean? So they're right on the front line, and I don't know. I think a lot of them get really traumatized. I think a lot of them get chewed up by this because they don't get trained on how to handle death. I've heard it repeatedly that the medical training does not equip you to handle death and dying. There's none of that, and their hero story, sort of relating it back to Becca, is that they get to save people's lives. That's how they get professional fulfillment, and that's what they do. And so dying, that's failure. And society creates these expectations. So I think doctors are cannon fodder. I mean, well-paid cannon fodder, but I wouldn't be a doctor for anything.
I think it's a little bit different because obviously you're based in the UK.
Yeah.
I'm from the UK. Ellen worked in the UK NHS for 15 years, and then we moved over here 10 years ago. And it's very, very much different over here because over here doctors are. So there's a book that I'm sure many people who are listening, and you may have read yourself, Freakonomics, or it may have even been Super Freakonomics, a follow up. I'm not sure. They talk about there's three main reasons why doctors don't want to give or they want to use chemotherapy, even though when they know it's useless in certain oncological situations. It only really works effectively in about four cancers, maybe 5 really effectively, and the rest of it is just like, because they know they'll slow the progression, so they'll lengthen their life, and they haven't got to give the quote unquote come to Jesus speech. Secondly is they get paid for it, and thirdly is it improves their record in terms of the longer they keep somebody alive, the better their statistics look, the more they're then likely to get referred patients, make money, etc., etc. Whereas in the UK, the system's completely different. Whereas, so over here, a doctor gets paid for prescribing drugs. In the UK, a doctor prescribes drugs and it comes out of their budget, so they've got less money to spend on another patient. So it's kind of like the system's, arse about face. So I think in the UK, I would agree entirely. I think it's slightly different over here. And I also, because my wife knows so many doctors, I also know that a lot of them are type A, really driven type A, and they actually, seriously, they really don't give a fuck. They can say, give that news and move on. Honestly, they can, and go home at night and just play with the kids or do whatever. Now, for me, that's difficult to empathise with. And I can tell by the way you're looking now, John, for anybody listening to the podcast, for you it is too. And I'm guessing for Olivier, because that's not how we are. But certain people have this ability to just like, that's nothing to do with me. It's work. I've been trained that way, etc., etc. So my wife can disassociate when she's at work in terms of if there's a trauma. And she saved a woman fairly recently from a carotid blowout, which is almost impossible to do, and jumped on a crash chart and stopped it. But now I put, if I'd have said to her, "Oh, can you go and deal with that guy down the road that's been an ass?" She'd be like, "Ooh, I can't do that." Which would probably be a lot more easy to deal with. So it's kind of like, it's a role people play, I think, and some people are better at compartmentalising and disassociating than others. Most people can't do it, but I think the training that doctors go through is so disciplined, is so regimented, that even those that aren't like that naturally pick up those, and I use the word loosely, skills. Do you know what I mean? So I'm with you. I do think doctors are on the front line. I do think it's a thankless task, even though they get paid a lot of money, and that's not the answer for everything. You've kind of touched on that yourself in terms of it's going to come to them as well, and at some point they're going to realise, well, why did I do this for all the money? But I also think that maybe there's some cultural differences in terms of from like the UK to the US, and then the US to places like India, for example, where my wife's worked with a couple of doctors, and they're completely different again. So, but the other question I wanted to ask you, if I may, so it's often said in psychological terms that every fear is a fear of death, and you kind of touched on this when you said it's like with the Ernest Becker report. It's just like when we're fearful of things that you can drill down and down. So I'm fearful that I might lose my job, and then I'm fearful that I may lose my house, and then I could end up on the streets, and then I could get mugged, or I could get killed, and then so bang, suddenly you're to fear of death. And I'm guessing, by the way, you're nodding your head, you've heard of that. Do you subscribe to that belief? Because I'm kind of like on the fence with it. I get it. I'm just curious to hear your take.
Yeah, I'm certainly scared of death. Always have been. I think I always will be. If visualize myself at that moment, when that's what's happening, it's really very, very scary indeed. So, yeah, and it's certainly such a deep thing, but I can't imagine living without fear. I don't know. Fear's kind of integral, but
of course it is.
Yeah, and I like to. I don't know.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. And you're right. Fear's an integral thing. Anybody listening to these podcasts probably won't get it, but I always get a little bit nervous before coming on.
Yeah,
I always do. Then I do a bottle of Jack Daniels. I'm fine.
It's just scared of me. That's it.
Yeah, I'm just scared of your intellectual wit and charisma and good looks and sexier Fran Jackson. Yeah. No, but seriously, like that, I think fear gives you. a point to fear. It stops us doing ridiculous things. It stops us. I was talking to a client of mine yesterday, and she's bought herself this kite surfer, and she tried to explain this thing. I had no idea what she meant. She said basically. So I said, send me a picture. So she sent me a picture of this kite, and this is how these new ones work. And I can't remember what they're called now, foil boards or something. And basically the board is 3 foot above the waves. And then there's like a thing going down in the middle and 2 fins out. So they sit on top of the waves. So 3 foot sounds like nothing until you see this fucking thing. And she says she physically was vomiting before she went out on it the first time, because you have to go upwind with it, which is more difficult. I don't know the technicalities of kite surfing, and she was trying to explain this to me. And she said it is so dangerous because you have to wear a crash vest, because when you hit the waves, even from 3 foot, if a wave's dipping as you hit it could be 4 or 5 foot, and it's like really, really painful. I look at this thinking, and I actually emailed her back and I just said, fuck, good luck. And that was all I said. It's just like some people, but I think for a lot of people, there is an element of being the closer they can go to death and cheat it. And you can't cheat death, but you know what I mean? Avoid it. It's like people that throw themselves off El Capitan in Yosemite in a wingsuit, or people that do all sorts of things. It's like there's that rush that they get, that adrenaline thing. I mean, I couldn't do it. I don't know.
Well,
I did a parachute jump.
You jump through. This is what I would say, and I did it as well. By the way,
amazing.
His
plane hadn't taken off though, so it wasn't quite as impressive.
No, sure. But I just reached 40 3 weeks ago. Okay,
congratulations.
And
Did I send you a cake?
Yeah, you say fuck off, something like that, like as wishes, happy birthday wishes, something.
Yeah,
like
we're both old. We're both middle-aged now. Exactly. Fantastic. Yeah.
But something is changed with me, because so I did this parachute jump at age 40, and this midlife crisis.
A tattoo. Did you have a tattoo and back?
Yeah, exactly. And I have a mistress, but I have a mistress because I'm French by rights.
Yeah.
We had
it's more Chevalier. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
that's fine. So, but more and more this fear of death is in me. It's and before that, in my 30s, of course, when I was young, as a child, almost every night I was thinking of that, and then it disappeared. When you're 18 and things like that, you're just really high on life, and suddenly with this kind of midlife crisis, suddenly I'm seeing myself just exactly what you described, Tim. I'm looking for this. I did this ayahuasca ceremony, taking drugs in the middle of jungle, because I was expecting to die, actually, because this is what you said. This shaman will tell you. One of the experiences that you may have is actually, have this impression of dying, and people going through this actually are okay after that. The fear of death kind of fade away, and before I wouldn't even dare to do that because I was too scared. But now I'm just like, okay, shit. You know what? I'm just fed up to run away. You just need to turn, and face your fear. And I'm kind of this kind of mode right now. It just to say, okay, fuck it now. You mentioned at the very early stage of the podcast, you say, death remove bullshit. Death remove bullshit, and just you can see the bare truth of that. And this is actually, to me, it's so important to talk about death. It's really, this is not bullshit anymore. Tell me exactly what you think. Tell me exactly who you are. You're scared. I'm scared. I'm sure Tim is scared as well from death, of dying.
Especially as I'm the oldest one here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm the closest to it. Yeah. Fucking thank you for reminding me.
How we connect, and we talk about deep stuff, And sorry to go, I'm just doing the Tim thing right now. I'm talking too much. But I had a dinner with some colleagues. And I work in HR, and all of my colleagues are women, right? And I spent 2 hours and a half talking about handbags, they all talk about handbags and Prada handbags and stuff like this. Is what happened for 2 hours and a half.
He fucking loved it. I'll tell you.
I was
on such a high when he came out of that. He went out and bought three Prada, 2 Coach, and a Jimmy Choo's pair of shoes.
Exactly. How can you know this? I didn't know all this, half of this,
That's just what I would have done.
But I was so pissed off. And I'm so pissed off to say I just wasted 2 hours and a half of my life talking about Prada and Gucci and just shitty stuff that nobody cares at the end of the day, So and anyway, I don't know where I'm going, but
no, I don't know where you're going either. I hope you'll go somewhere else away from this podcast.
Okay, I'm going.
So that me and John can have a sensible conversation.
John, please say something.
No, but I mean,
am I crazy? Or
no. That's I can emphasize. I mean, if you're conscious that time's passing, then it can lead to a lot of impatience. You can think, well, I'm not doing the right thing. But I think that can be very unhelpful. Sometimes if you're stuck in a rut, it can be very motivating and get you out of your patterns and to try something different. But other times, doing things you don't want to do is part of life. And I think there's a lot to be gained from being patient and just trying to help people in whatever situation you find yourself in. So I think that's really that's what warms the heart of many people when they, look back on their life, is what they've done for other people, what they've done for the people that mean something to them, whoever that might be. And so, at that handbag conversation, you might have really said something really nice. You might have given a compliment to one of your colleagues, and which might have really helped her. Do you know what I mean? So don't look at it as wasted time. I'm sure they enjoyed you being there, and if you're there, you might as well enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. We're all where we are. Life's not perfect, you know what I mean? But you might as well enjoy it and get the most out of it wherever you happen to be.
I'm sorry, John, we're life coaches. Our lives are perfect.
Yeah.
You obviously don't got the grasp of this whole life coaching business. It's about perfection. I agree. That reminds me of a story one time of going out through my local supermarket, and the woman in front of me in the line came to serve by the cashier, and she asked her a question. I can't remember what the question was now, and the woman said to me, I don't know, I'm just a checkout girl or whatever, or cashier or whatever is say in England. And I followed up and I said, you're more than just a checkout girl or just a cashier. Without people like you, this business would close. And there was a picture. I was in a supermarket called Publix in the US, which is big in the South. There's a picture of the guy who started it behind us. See that guy? The guy that started Publix. I said, without people like you, his business would close down. And I'd love to say she said, yeah, that's really cool. But she said, have you found everything you wanted?
You're really connected with the person.
Yeah, I know. I just blew it completely. But the point's true. It's like people say, "Well, I just do this or just do that." But whether you're to use a UK expression, which I used in Words with Friends today, which was fantastic, which was dustbin. Dustbin man. In the UK, or a trash collector over here, or whether you're somebody's gardener, or whether you're an undertaker, or whether you're a death cafe owner, or whatever, you have the ability to impact on people's lives. On a day, unless you never come into, if you're a writer, people think that just because people think like it's a numbers game. I can actually remember, I swear to God, my wife once said to me, I need to do more meaningful work. And I'm like, at the time, I'm going back a long time now, I was in sales, and I was thinking, fuck, I don't even think that, and I'm in sales, which is really meaningless in many respects. You're out there saving people's lives and what have you. And you feel like, and I just said, well, how many people do you want to help? And she said, well, I don't know. I said, well, the thing is, it doesn't matter. You can't put a number on it. You either feel like you're helping people. There isn't like, well, I want to help 10, or I've seen people say, I want to influence 1 million people. Well, what happens when you get to 1 million? Do you then quit? Or if you get to 950,000, do you think like it was all not worthwhile? it's kind of like, well, it's like every person that you influence. I'm going to get really cliched now, and I hate this story, but I'm going to use it anyway. But it's about the girl on the beach with the starfish, and there's starfish all over the beach, and she throws one back. Have you not heard it?
No.
And then she goes to the next one and throws it back. So there's been a big storm, and this guy comes up to her and says, "What's she doing?" So she said, "I'm throwing the starfish back." And he said, "Well, you can't possibly make a difference." And she said, "Well, I can make a difference to this one, and I can make a difference to this one." And it's a bit like that. It's like, we can only impact the people we meet and have influence on, and hopefully, for the most part, make their lives better. And if everybody went out, I'm not saying I do, I can be a complete dick at times. As Oliver, I couldn't even beat him to that then, but I knew you were going to say that. But, for the most part, we do what we do because we want to help people. I'm not particularly well paid, and Olivier is well paid because he works in the oil industry. He won't leave to go to life coaching because he's a greedy bastard and doesn't care about influencing people. No, but seriously, it's just like, so what you're doing, I see as having real social value. I don't mean to be condescending now, John, or patronising or whatever. I see it as having real social value in allowing people to talk about things that maybe they couldn't. And I'm sure for you, I don't like the, 5,000 people have died, but if one child doesn't die because of this, it was worth it. That whole thing, it's just like, let's be sensible. But, but if you change a few people's lives, and they're more comfortable with that, and they can go back to relatives and talk about stuff and say, you know what, when I die, I don't want My Way playing at the fucking funeral. I want Happy Mondays, Step On, or whatever. I don't care. It doesn't. It's just like, I want some. To me, I've already told my wife I want a track called Action by Alfredo, which is an Italian house track. That's what I want playing at my funeral. I want people to enjoy it and to celebrate. And celebrate that I'm gone before Olivier says anything, as well as my life, rather than just, it's like, we've got to be this way or that way. Have I rambled there? I have rambled, but I think I've made a little bit of sense as well.
A little bit too much. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. No, Alfredo's a good choice, I think.
Oh, do you know it?
I know Alfredo, I'm into my music, so yeah. He's the IBEEF and DJ at Space. Or
he was absolutely. Oh, fucking hell!
Yeah.
High five!
Indeed.
Oh God! Don't
I have
enable
never
him, John.
mentioned
Don't
that
enable
track
him on
to
this.
anybody when. Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Me and John are talking now.
No, John. You are talking, not John. So I want to ask you a question.
You've got to go and check out Action by him.
All right, I'll check it.
Italian house.
John, I've just read on your website because we just discussed for the last 20 minutes. It's only us, but it's your podcast, John. So I read that you want to open a real deaf cafe in London. Is it still? So tell us about this project.
Yeah, so I've been working on this for over a year, and so the idea is to open a real deaf cafe in London. So that would be a cafe with the name Deaf Cafe above the door. And so it serves food and drink like any other cafe, and you can connect. But I mean, the unique selling point, what's unique about it is that it's specifically established to facilitate people to connect and talk about, think about death. And so it's unique in that sense. And you can come in and buy a takeaway coffee or cake. You can come in and...
I thought you were going to say that. When you said coffee, I thought you were going to say coffin.
It nearly came out wrong, yeah. You can come and sit down and talk, and it also has events around deaf and dying. And I've been working on it for a good while, and I think it's viable as something to set up, and it will survive. And I think it's desirable. I think it's a really good thing to do because a lot of people, as I said, don't want to connect with deaf. But what we've established, we've had over 2,000 deaf cafes now in 31 countries, is that there's a significant number of people who, for a certain length of time, do want to connect with deaf, do want to think about it, do want to think that for that period enhances their lives. So what I'm trying to do with this is to have a place where they can go to. And so there'll be lots of deaf cafes there. And there's all kinds of other great work around deaf and dying. I know you've encountered some of it in your other podcasts. And so it would be a sort of home for that, for people to do music, films, lectures, discussion, practical classes, what support groups, whatever people want to do around it, and to invite more interesting work around deaf and dying into existence, because I just think it's a good thing to talk about death. I think it's a helpful thing. I think it's a sort of gateway thing as well, because if you can deal with death, then you can deal with anything. And so other difficult things that have been off the menu, looked too hard, or challenges that have seemed insurmountable, I think it sort of reinvigorates people, or certainly some people, to look at them again and to bring a freshness to them. And so that's what I'm hoping to do. And it's a not-for-profit venture, this Real Deaf Cafe. It's not about making money. So there'll be a share offer. People can buy shares in it, and they don't entitle those people to a share of any profits. Profits are ploughed back in, but they can take their money out in due course, assuming the business is there. So I'm going to be opening a share offer. And so there's one course where people buy these shares, and, it's not inexpensive to open a cafe in London, talking about 150 to 200,000 pounds in order to do that. So that's what we're going to try and raise. And so one path of history is that we get that. And I think if we do, we can do something really fantastic. And the other is that we don't, and in which case I get my life back. So it's win-win for me.
Yeah, ironic that you get your life back. Yeah. So are you doing, when you say you're selling, where, if anybody listened to this wanted to go and get involved, where would they go? It's not like a Kickstarter campaign or anything like that, crowdfunding, is it? Not
yet, because that's more donations, and we're not just taking people's money. They'll own part of it. They'll run it. It's their thing. It's theirs. So what I'm doing is making this offer to the community. Are there people out there who want this, and who are willing to make it work? And so if you want to stay in contact with the project, please check out our website, deafcafe.com. All the information will be on there.
I'm amazed that domain was still available when you bought it.
Really? Yeah.
No, not really. No, but I will. I would like to stay in touch, because I'd like to write on this for my blog.
Thank you.
Because John, first of all, and Olivier may have some more questions. First of all, I've been really, really, really. I'm so glad you came on. I was dubious when Olivier sent me another deaf person. It's just like, my God, yeah. But you're obviously very intelligent and erudite, and you've explained your position very well. And I think most people most people that are open-minded will get behind it. You're going to get people, we talked about this at the beginning. You're going to get people that they've got their view, whether that's bound to it rather to a religion or whatever, and that's fine. But I think you bring up an important, a really important salient point, and it's just like I never talked about this before with my mum and dad before they died, and I wished I had done. I wished I'd had that opportunity to do it. My dad died fairly suddenly. My mum, but she got dementia and died over a period, and where it was no point, we couldn't have that conversation. And it would have been really nice to know, what do you really want? What do you really, really want? Not what do we think we should do for the right thing for what other people. It's like, I'm not interested in what other people want. When they come to my funeral, you're going to fucking dance. You're going to dance, and you're going to eat shit English fish and chips. Otherwise, you're not coming. It's just like that. It's just, this is the last thing I'm going to impose on you. As Olivia knows, I won't shut the fuck up, and I'm not even going to shut the fuck up when I'm dead.
I know.
So,
I know that.
So I am grateful for my co-host here for in not insisting we did this, because I wouldn't say he said we insisted, but more for pushing it and saying this would be a good idea, because I think you've been an awesome guest, and I really appreciate you coming on, so thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks.
I think you're really good at podcasts, John. You mentioned in your email that you said, I'm not good at it. You're really good at it, and you expose very clearly your ideas, really clearly.
I agree.
And I was convinced already by that because I was impacted, as I explained, in my childhood, and I always, if I had this kind of place where you could exchange with people, I was extremely lonely when I was a child because I had this fear and I couldn't share it, basically, and that impacted me a lot. So I think that's a tremendous work that you do, and I did, and I just mentioned tremendous, the wrong word, but that's like
tremendous. That's like tremendous. I'll just
tremendous.
Come back
okay,
in
thank you, Tim. Yeah, this is we need to have a secret sign, just for you to say the right word.
Yeah, the signs
there, like this, say the right word in English. Okay. And it's awesome work, but and
Andy likes Alfredo, for fuck's sake. Come on.
What is it with these people? Every time that we have these people who actually thought about death, who are interested in death, they are always smart and intelligent, and it's always like something which is. Anyway, but you also you're Buddhist as well, no, John? This is I think yeah. So is it something that you have another website? I think it's Impermanence. Or is
No, I do.
Oh my gosh.
Impermanence is my other projects around death. So Death Cafe is really aimed at people who aren't dying yet, and the other projects are aimed at people who are sort of in who are going through that in reality. So it's people who are dealing with death. What I thought they might need is just really good service, no messing around, just exactly what you need. So I run this site with an organization called the Natural Death Center called Funeral Advisor. And it's basically a trip advisor for funeral directors in the UK.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. That's awesome. Trip advisor.
Yeah, funeral advisor. So people can go on there and rate the experience they've had, because people may not know that.
That is so fucking fantastic. Yeah. I can't believe it. Yeah. I have got to get this out to my readers. That is brilliant.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
I mean, fucking brilliant.
Because there are some people who do funerals who are incredible, like magical people, and there's others who will fleece you, who will sell things to you that you don't need and give you a really poor customer service. And so it's trying to give some more transparency and to that industry and a bit more power to the consumer. And then another project called Find Me Help, and that's for people who are dying and those close to them. And so it's a service finder. So it's the biggest database in the UK of all the services that people need, palliative care, or move transport, or looking after their pets, or even hairdressing and things like that. So they can find them things near them. And also it's got a really good guide for, just stuff that orientates you, because it can be very disorientated when you're hit with that news, and so it's stuff that just sensible stuff, what you need to know, a really good guide for those people. And that's with an organisation called Dying Matters, who are a really good charity in the UK. So yeah, Impermanence is all these projects together. So it's my work around death.
Awesome. Can I castigate or castrate?
Do a sign, mate.
Yeah. Anyway, it's you I'm doing, because you never told me that John was a Buddhist, and that's something that's close to my heart.
Right, I can see the Buddha on your wall. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are.
I must have. I've got to confess that I'm not necessarily a Buddhist, but I believe in a lot of the Buddhist principles and philosophers. And I do my metta bhavana, or breath meditation, or I do a lot of vipassana meditation. So I wished I'd known that at the beginning. I would have been even more boring than I am now. But you'd never got a word in edgeways, John. So maybe that's why he kept the information back. So yeah,
it's good. Thank you, John, for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
It was a real pleasure. Your work is really important. I really, really believe that.
I do too. Can I just say something? Maybe when we get closer, how far are you away from raising the cash that you need to do?
I haven't asked. Yeah, I'm still working on the proposal. So the proposal's got to really be incredible. because it's a crazy thing to do, open a deaf cafe in London. And
shit, yeah.
it's just ridiculous. So everything's got to be absolutely right. And if I'm saying we can do it for a certain amount of money, it's got to be right. And the thing itself has got to just be fantastic. It's just got to be wonderful. So I'm working on that.
You're not going to have a coffin-shaped door then?
No.
I don't know. No.
We don't need anything.
I'm just saying, I'm joking. I'm thinking maybe nearer the time we could maybe
go there.
Even if we don't have you back on here, we could maybe. I'd be interested in having you on my blog, which has got a far bigger readership than this. Sorry. I just had to say that. But,
I know.
But
it's true.
But it's true what Lydia says. Because I don't want to get too brown nosed and toady in there. But this is important shit. It's something that's going to happen to all of us. There aren't many things that we can say is going to happen to everybody. You're going to breathe, you're going to defecate, you're going to, eat, whatever. There's like, you probably 2 hands you can count them all. But the one thing is, even all those may not happen because you may die coming out of the womb. We're all going to die. That's the one. We're not even all the death and taxes. Well, you may not have ever paid taxes. Al Capone never paid taxes. So it's kind of like, but he did die. He definitely died. Even Bond says you only live twice. He was a lying fucker. Bastard. I tried that. It didn't work. Okay.
Actually, I have one question just before, because you just remind me.
Okay, go on then. What is it for me?
There's this movement, I mentioned it with Dr. Bowie, which basically predict that we will defeat death and dying, like Aubrey de Grey, and this kind of people who work on basically trying to become immortals, and defeat death by technology and even download our consciousness or brains into a computer. And you have, Ray Kurzweil, I believe that's the guy, who is the pioneer on this, and he believed that in 2045 we will reach this state, by technology. What do you think about this?
Just a small question. Just a quick question to wrap up.
Quick.
Just to wrap up about immortality.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
Imbecile.
I don't know. Maybe it's possible, and I can understand why people would work on it, though. But it's just boring. I'm not interested. Neither
am I, John, and neither is anyone.
Okay, fine. Let's cut this crap.
There are real problems that people need to sort out. Do you know what I mean? We can't even live in a proper way, treat people equally. We can't even do that. So, I'm not holding my breath, and I'd rather focus on those challenges that are, we really can impact on properly, rather than, I don't know, it just feels like.
Yeah, it's a great answer to a fucking stupid question.
It was, but it's a stupid movement as well. I don't like that.
On that bombshell.
Thank you, John, for everything.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
thanks you.
A lot,
thank
John.
you.
Appreciate it. Take care, mate.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Let's stop the recording. Perfect.
I could not keep from crying. Now she's gone, so gone. But then I could tell how I feel. Well, I wish I carried you home. Well, I wish I carried you home. Shouldn't have left Texas all alone. Now she's gone, so gone.